Welcome back to another episode of the Block Runner Podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with the co-host, Iman.
What's going on, dude?
And on the sticks, we got TJ.
Hello.
Finally joining us once again, we got Aaron, Wade, and Kimi from Foxxi.
The Foxiverse.
The Foxiverse. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to hear from you guys again.
Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you guys for coming, because I mean, this is definitely way long overdue, right? Like, just kind of like getting you guys back on to kind of like, you know, re-explore your constructions and everything you're doing to contribute to the Bitmap ecosystem, right? So if you guys can, you know, because the last time we kind of were exploring all that was pretty much during like the very beginning days of Bitmap itself. So a lot has happened since then. A lot of new infrastructure components have kind of rolled out, DMT included. I think before we even
DMT wasn't out before, like when we had the first interview.
Exactly. So some new context has emerged, right? So if you guys can just kind of give everybody like a brief reintroduction to Foxxi and I guess like your origins and how you got involved in the Ordinals and Bitmap and all this stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love to. So the very beginning of our journey here, it was with a socialify app that we were developing, which is Foxxi.social, and it's still up and running. We've had that up for about a year and a half or so. And shortly after that, Bitmap came around, Ordinals and then Bitmap. And we found it was very interesting with Bitmap because we were very early mentors of Bitmap, but people could actually create a metaverse inside of Bitcoin itself. It was very innovative, the idea of Bitmap itself. So Wade actually was extremely bullish on Bitmap. If I was a little bit more bullish, I think we could have had minted a lot more Bitmaps. I think we minted roughly around 200 or so. Roughly around maybe 70-ish we gave away to the community to introduce what we were working on as well, and Bitmap as well, you know, onboarding people. So the idea of our metaverse was to create a platform where people can actually go inside of their Bitmap and create their own space, create their own little world. So you could actually, like when we first had our first meeting, we actually had a very simple game where you can see the little fox, and you would run around in that game, and you could actually check out your art gallery. You could actually customize your own world, make like little buildings, etc. Shortly after that, we began modifying the game, improving it. We were able to customize, like I said, customize some of your buildings, add artwork into your gallery, and then we ended up having an OG sale, right? So then the OG sales, we used the OG sales did really well. We used those funds to improve the game, hire more devs, and we decided to revamp the entire game. So revamping the game, we redid the whole entire. And now it's 3D. It's a higher resolution. We have a player versus player versus environment interaction. We added a boss. There's just a lot more things you can actually do inside of our metaverse now than just walk around and look at things in other people's projects, etc. So some of the interaction that you can actually do in our Bitverse now. You can fight against Gary Gunslinger. So Gary Gunslinger is actually one of the bosses. He's actually Gary Gensler, right? But we named him Gary Gunslinger because it sounds a little cooler. Mm-hmm. And so he doesn't give you a prize yet, but when you do defeat him, he will drop like a treasure chest, and everyone who participated in that fight will actually be able to go there and loot the chest. Get your part of the loot. So as more people come to fight him, he will increase in damage, and he will also increase in his health. So he becomes tougher, and the prizes will also increase as well. So that's one of the things that we've added to our Bitverse. Another thing that we've added as well, we're almost completed. We're doing tests right now. Final test is the clan wars. So with the clan wars, you can actually set up a clan. If you have a project and you've reached out to us, you can actually participate, make a team, and fight against other clans. So for example, just a short example here, maybe Troll versus Tap or Ordinal Revolutions, they'll fight each other, and then they'll go down a bracket, right? So the winner of the whole entire tournament will receive prizes as well. Maybe your clan will receive a special avatar from the Foxxi team that will inscribe that and give it to all the participants. that's going to be, anything is really possible in the creative part of it. So maybe an avatar, maybe some special weapon skin, etc. What else we're implementing for example, the metaverse part. We have a stage where you can actually have shows, you can actually do like a concert, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's actually a lot. There's actually a lot to the game itself. But yeah, that's just a little short brief. But the team came together when we began developing the SocialFi part, and it was Wade and I and two other developers. And then after that, we did like I said, we did the OG cells, and then we just expanded the team. I think we're roughly around close to 15 members right now. And Kimi joined us close to the Bitmap shortly after actually the game launch. So he's been with us for a while as well. I'm very glad to have everyone here that's on the team.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are covering as many like verticals of interest like related to the metaverse, because starting with social is obviously a big critical feature, value add to the metaverse experience, right? But then injecting all these different like potential GameFi activities, just anything that I guess can be interpreted as like a value add to a multiplayer shared, 3D environment, right? So in the metaverse context of things, that's really hard to kind of like identify like what is the killer app of the metaverse. I mean, we've been trying to like wrestle with that ourselves for years now, right? The whole industry really has like,
we have a theory.
We have many theories.
Yeah.
But I think your strategy as far as like, creating a platform where you can like just at least attempt as much as possible, right? To experiment down this line of thinking, right? Like what is going to be a thing that results in maximum engagement and retention?
Yeah, I feel like we probably should talk about that theory, the economic requirement, then economic access to.
Yeah, we could give our thoughts maybe after you guys kind of like.
Yeah.
Because tell us what you guys think. Like, you're introducing all these new things, but what do you think is actually going to be? Is it one of these individual activities, or just like the ability to collectively, deploy all of them in unison? Like, what is it that's going to result in, maximum retention for the average metaverse user?
Yeah, our theory, we have a theory too, and our theory is also that if you just come to Metaverse and be there and I don't know what to do, build something, it's fun at the beginning, but it becomes boring after some time when you build such thing. So our intention was to add as much as different things to bring engagement, to make it more fun, and later to give people opportunity to earn on many different ways. Passively, by creating some assets, building something on creator side, maybe selling that later, even maybe renting parcels on Bitmap, and so on. Also, clan versus clan mode of game is, in my opinion, which will drive the most engagement, because Web3 is all about communities, and we often see tribalism. So not as much, not in Ordinals as much as on other chains, but still we see tribalism, and why not make it fun and to I don't know, to give people a battlefield to beat other project and something like that. So I think that will be the most engaging thing here.
Yeah,
it's more like a fun metaverse, based on the concept of ordinal theory, utilizing all the on-chain assets. Like the characters are on chain, the accessories are on chain. It's a fun part. And you can also, create on the utilizing the bitmap. You can create your virtual world.
Yeah.
How your concert? Yeah.
On the technical side, we want to give our metaverse as a playground to developers also. So we want to implement many prosperous protocols and digital assets on Bitcoin. So that's why we integrated Bitmap. DMT, of course, is very interesting and promising technology at its beginning. So there is a lot of potential there and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So how would you break down kind of like our take on like the first utilization of like a sticky experience in the metaverse?
I mean, to me, it's a it's a multifaceted, I guess, formula, but based on my experience of like metaverse, takeaways from what I've seen throughout the last few years, it's like a scale of just interactivity and functionality, right? It's the same thing we're kind of like observing in the broader like Bitcoin ecosystem, right? The market is very stagnant at the moment for an maybe not so obvious reason, right? It's just you can't expect much value to be generated from like a static environment, right? Where there's a minimum programmability feature to the actual tech stack itself of ordinals or runes or whatever, right? So the market just, developers don't have access to actually contribute any real value to what's already kind of existing, right? Therefore, users will not come, right? That's always been our thesis. Like you've got to cater to the developers first of all.
100%, yeah.
So you need an actual sensible technology stack that enables real high grade application like quality content to exist within the virtual environments, right? So for whatever reason, like this has not been executed very well in metaverse history. It's been mostly like static gallery verses and stuff like that, which it has its use and function, but like you said, quickly becomes boring as hell.
Yeah, and that's only one facet, right? Because there's a programmability layer in Decentraland.
Yeah.
But they don't have like a million users, right?
It's true.
Right? And so
they're missing some more facets.
Yeah, there's more facets to it.
Yeah, it's not just programmability.
And then there's another facet that I think Wade mentioned is like fun. That's like, but fun is from the perspective of like the West, where we've sort of figured out the Maslow's hierarchy of need for the most part, and now we're just looking for experiences that are more entertaining. But there's roughly 2 to 3 billion people on the planet with internet access and the ability to access a metaverse, and they're not necessarily looking for fun things. They're looking for like an economic return.
Yeah, an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so that's been our grand takeaway as far as like there's obviously many killer applications to the metaverse, but I feel like in our minds our grand unified like answer to the question of why are we building for the metaverse? To us, it's like it's the attempt to unlock this new paradigm of economic opportunity. So for who? Yeah, the most qualified demographic of people are like individuals on Earth in our physical reality who don't have access to that, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to solve these problems like with our existing physical, infrastructure, civilization, in other words, right? Just a lot of people are just left out for whatever reason, many different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we saw so many players playing Axie Infinity, why there's so many people on Ton just like tapping away at hamsters.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. They're looking for the economic opportunity. It's called an airdrop, right? But there's like a longer, stickier version of airdrops, which is like activities in the metaverse, like a job potentially.
Yeah. So we recently revisited Decentraland privately, I guess. Internally, we keep doing that. Just like, is anything improving? Because they do have the programmability layer like to this metaverse equation, right? Like just like you guys are building into the Foxiverse platform, right? You want developers to build, but it's always like, why isn't it working, right? And to me, it's like I always account for how much time am I spending in Decentraland? It's been an hour. How much value have I actually accrued? 0.
Right.
Or actually negative, because there's really nothing producing value within this programmable ecosystem.
But you also spent a lot of time on World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And what did you gain? What was the value gained from World of Warcraft specifically?
Just fulfillment.
Entertainment, right?
Respect, Will.
Deep personal fulfillment, dude.
Yeah. I mean, you got something out of it. Like it was
Yeah.
It was a form of entertainment instead of watching like a movie or TV show.
If you study that Maslow's pyramid, right?
Right.
That is the top of the tip of the pyramid, the self-actualization. It gave me the sense of that. Like I'm achieving something, even though it's in the virtual space. It still triggered all those receptors in my brain where I felt content. I felt like, I've established myself in the universe.
Yeah.
And then as soon as all that ceased, it's like I'm right back at the bottom. Like, oh shit, I actually haven't really done anything. Right?
Yeah.
So all that to say is like, you guys are on the right track, right? Starting with programmability and making sure developers can contribute to that end.
Yeah. So it's programmability, fun, and economic opportunity.
Yeah.
That's like the trifecta of like the most difficult thing to do, all those things. So this is a non-trivial attempt.
Correct.
So yeah, that's hopefully I make some sense, and because we've been thinking about this for like a number of years, and we're trying to figure out like first principles. We're trying to figure out what is it that's going to take for a creator, a creator of the metaverse, like the infrastructure layer. What do you need to build inherently in order to actually get to that sticky layer? And really, it's all about like appealing to the demographic that you're going after, right? Fun is specifically for the people who have achieved at least the bottom rungs of the Maslow's hierarchy of need, and then like the economic access is for like the 2-3 billion people that don't have economic access, right? And so really, it's about like which is your demographic, and I think it's hard to know like which one has like the most available access, like readily available.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe people are still playing like Halo in the West and they really don't care about anything else other than like pure entertainment. So it's hard to say which one is like to go after.
Yeah. So having said all that, what is it about Bitmap, guys, that, if it's assuming you guys agree with us and you're aligned based on your development, it seems like you do. What is it about Bitmap that you think is like the perfect starting grounds, I guess, to actually execute on like at least some of these elements, right?
So I found it very interesting how quickly I think the community just minted out Bitmap, right? It was over 800,000 bitmaps were minted out in I think a couple of weeks. The community is very strong. They're very unified. So we felt like Bitmap was the perfect place to build what we have here, a metaverse/game. Basically, we wanted to make a nice utility for Bitmap. We were the first ones to develop this and have a working product. There were other people that were developing something similar with similar ideas, but what they would do is they would sell you their Bitmap, and then you can probably go on there and do something, right? So we did it kind of the opposite. We wanted to, because there's a lot of people that maybe don't want to, purchase a bitmap to, an extra bitmap, so that way they could actually, develop something. So we wanted to offer something free where everyone who has a bitmap could actually go on and play and do something. And that's what we did. And then if you enjoyed like the experience of playing in our games, the metaverse experience, then you could purchase something else inside of our game, or from one of our collabs, right? Because we have collabs, and in each collab they'll have an actual building inside of our game. You can actually go inside their building and check out what they have. You go to their links, go to the Magic Eden, etc. So we feel like if we offer a good experience, something simple for people to use, and people naturally, they'll enjoy the experience, enjoy the game, they'll naturally purchase things, just like these other games like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, what can you tell us as far as like, for you guys obviously have to showcase and prove things like yourselves first, right? Typically is what happens with like metaverse development. You build some technology and you become first users of that technology, just kind of demonstrate like the power of it. What can you tell us as far as like the forecast of how you plan to onboard more developers? Like what are the builder limitations within like the stack that you guys are building? Details like this, just so anybody, if there's a dev watching and they're, they want to get involved, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so that's going to be more the developer part. That's going to be more with Wade. He'll answer that in just a second. For users, though, like I've mentioned before, we're going to be getting a lot of Twitch influencers. I feel very strongly that if we want our game to really grow, we have to get some of these influencers to play their games. There's a lot of gamers that are streaming. There's a lot of streaming services that are really popular. A lot of YouTubers, but developers. That's going to be with Wade. He's our main dev.
Mm-hmm.
Wade, go ahead.
Yeah. So right now we are using the Unity engine. The one is already been used on the Sandbox and Decentraland Metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
So we did quite research before choosing this engine, because there is more developer support on this Unity engine.
Mm-hmm.
And we also built a Unity Ordinal SDK. We haven't made it public available yet, but we will make it available for everyone to use it. So when a new dev can easily go around and play with this SDK and get their app running for the Ordinals.
Okay, good.
That's our take, and that's our contribution to the Ordinal community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome, because in the early days when we were looking at different metaverses and like where to build, like the only one that had an SDK was Decentraland.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, since we believe of the programmability layer of the metaverse, like that was the only place to build, right, in Decentraland. And so now that Wade is mentioning an SDK, that's sort of like, it piques my interest. Like,
well, it's literally like you have no place with that one, right?
That's exactly.
Yeah, like that's the starting point. So I'm really glad you guys.
So let me explain why an SDK is important. Other than like, obviously you can use it for programming, because the alternative without an SDK is just like a world of like static objects, just like GOBs.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's a lot of those metaverses, and yeah, they might have people because it's like a social place, but there's no interactability, there's no stickiness, there's no nothing. And so it's very, very important to have an SDK and that layer of like appealing to a new demographic of creators. All of a sudden you can start seeing all kinds of stuff deployed in that metaverse environment. And that's what we've seen in our history. Yeah.
And that's what we've kind of ourselves attempted to contribute as most as we could to the metaverse landscape, is this idea of these metaverse-enabled tokenized apps, right? These metas is what we used to call them. So they were functional and deployed within Decentraland. And the thing that's cool about them is like now anybody who doesn't have the ability to, program themselves, they have access to hosting basically applications within the metaverse ecosystem, and now be like actual active pillars within like the digital economy.
Yeah.
Right. Like where if these apps, they generate some type of yield through some kind of like user activity, through me hosting this application in my land environment that I do own or have access to, like I get access to some of that, those returns, right? Mm-hmm. Now we have a multi-actor ecosystem here, which is very important, right? Because that kind of contributes to like the stickiness and the sustainability of this digital economics overall, right? Because
a lot of landowners, they're not programmers.
No.
Right? And programmers don't own a lot of land.
Correct. Yeah, because, it might be expensive in a lot of cases, and devs typically, they just want to build. They're not like looking to like make investments.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
I need to be a land baron. No, I just want to build cool stuff, right? So there's like a metaverse trilemma in the sense, right? It's like, why are there no users in the metaverse? Well, it's because devs aren't building stuff.
Yeah.
Why are there no devs in the metaverse? It's because they don't have access to the land to deploy stuff, right? So it's like it's this weird chicken and egg scenario in this metaverse equation, right? So if we could solve that by making these apps that kind of serve all these different individual actors and everybody's aligned, through incentives and different economic,
and if this is foreign to you, this is exactly what happens in real life, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you deploy a business, you don't necessarily have to buy the land that the business exists on, right? You go and rent that land, and then you just like run your business, and then you pay rent to like have that business hosted on that land.
Yep.
Right. And so this is real life, except digital.
Yeah. So we're really excited to see you guys kind of demonstrate all this with the upcoming Bitminer, right? Because this is a perfect example of that, right? This is an actual in metaverse application that kind of fulfills a lot of these checkboxes that we're kind of identifying here. So you can kind of introduce us to that, the Bitminer, right? Because this is an upcoming UNAT drop that will be launched on MScribe. I don't think there's an official date yet, right?
Not yet.
So Bitminer is 3D DMT Metaverse deployable miner. It's long to say, but I hope I could explain it as shorter as I can. So it's everything is generative. It's unique because of the DMT protocol features. You refer to particular block when you're minting, and of course it's unique. But what's a game changer here? It's not just by appearance. It's not that they look different than the other Bitminer. Now they have different features because they have utility for now in our metaverse, but we hope one day some other metaverses or worlds or games will implement that too. Just like we're implementing some of the assets and technologies from our partners. So each miner will have their unique mining power, but that's not the only way where blockchain data steps in. Mm-hmm. So when Bitminer mines token in-game, our in-game currency, Foxxi, the reward is dynamic in 4 different things. It depends on the mining power of your Bitminer. It depends on live data from live block, Bitcoin block. It depends on how much Bitminers is active at that moment. And also you can get some bonuses from bitmaps you own and data of that block of that bitmap. So it's pretty unique, and maybe people will be confused at the start because they will not know how much they will mine. We will not know how much they will mine, mm-hmm. because some resources depends on the current block, as I said. So it depends how much transaction was the last block. That's how we, let's say, determine how much Foxxi is in the pool, reward pool for that block. And
and a few more features. For example, the resources that you can mine, you can actually use those resources to build in your own world. So the game has 2 versions. One's a main lobby where you're going to be doing the PvP, player versus environment, such things. And then if you log in with your bitmap, you actually go to the other world. That's your world. And these resources that you're mining, you can actually go into your world. And that's where you're going to be doing a lot of the creativity in your own little world, right? That's where you're going to be building your building, etc., and putting up all your artwork and cool things like that. Another cool feature too of the Bitminer is that it's also going to be you're going to be receiving airdrops of other top tap projects. Mm-hmm. So we've got a lot of collabs, and these projects have all participated, and you're going to be receiving airdrops from these other projects.
Mm. So you envision like these like little micro economies emerging within like the Foxiverse, and you spin up your own. You have a bitmap, right? And I want to connect my bitmap to this Foxiverse stack. You're envisioning like the deployer of this, not just the Foxxi environment, but like potentially another token, another tap token, whether it's arbitrary or not. Like the prevailing mechanism as far as like how to distribute this token will be through this miner. Is that how you're foreseeing it?
Just a direct yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The same way.
Okay, so that's exactly how it's gonna work. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. Because I mean, it's an activity that I guess it's not too complicated, right? I guess the mechanics of that can always be like adjusted, however you want.
Yeah, it's a dynamic mechanism.
Yeah,
and with the integration of Bitmap, each Bitmap holders can come and connect, and then they can deploy the Bitminer. and then start mining from their bitmap. It's like, in a real world scenario where if you have a land, then you can, mine and get resources from your land. Same concept. But here we are using the block data inside a bitmap. The block data we generate, for example, Bitruby. It's like an in-game resource.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the miner can mine other airdropper tokens from the tap projects.
Okay.
So, these different commodities, right? They're non-arbitrarily generated. They're dependent on block data as per like the framework of DMT, right? So,
yes, exactly.
Is there going to be some difference as applied to like the individual miners themselves, or they all have the same access to the same resources, or it's all dependent on like these properties that determine like which of these commodities can be extracted? It's all block related, right? Based on the data.
Yeah, it's all block related, and it's all unique.
Okay, interesting.
And we have categorized some rarity also. Like we have non-rarity, but or each miner is unique. Each miner will be having different efficiency.
Yeah, that's cool. So we have like the ability to mine at different rates based off of like the block that you end up getting for your UNAT. And no one really knows what that rate is going to be. So that's interesting. I'm curious about your technology stack, Wade. Like how does Unity and your technology stack treat parcels within your bitmap? If I have a bitmap and I deploy the Bitminer, is it on a particular parcel or is it on top of the entire bitmap? Like, how do you treat that?
So right now it's on top of a bitmap. Like we consider, we haven't integrated the parcel standards yet.
Okay.
So it will be like a full district.
Gotcha.
We on the game we have made a verification system for each bitmap.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you can go and connect on our world, and then you will be going to the bitmap that you are holding. And also you can, if you are holding more bitmaps, then you can have a bigger area. Like you can select those bitmaps, and then you will be having a bigger boundary.
I see. So basically, if you have a bitmap with one parcel, one transaction, then that world is going to be smaller than a bitmap with 5,000 transactions. Would that be correct?
No, there is land area, specific land area, because
I see.
the less transaction blocks, the early blocks, the early bitmaps, that's going to be having a higher value because it's considered rare.
Okay, makes sense.
So based on that on that context, the early blocks will be having some more powers.
I see.
The early bitmaps will be having some more powers. Like when you deploy a bitminer on the early blocks, it might be generating more more bit Foxxis or more other tokens. So
sure, that makes sense.
It is like that.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you have an early bitmap and I deploy a bitminer, then my rate of like mining for Foxxi tokens is probably a little bit higher than one with like a bitmap with 5,000 transactions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's cool. That's a lot of programming on the back end to kind of like set all that up, because there's a lot of bitmaps. There's almost 1 million of them, and now you have like this variability amongst each one. So I guess what we're building here with like DMT and like Bitmap and like, something like a miner here, gets pretty complex in terms of like what the actual output is.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
This complexity is like it's like a prerequisite, I think, to get anything really sensibly started in like any economic direction, right? Because now we have these things deployed and deployable, and it's a baseline like extraction mechanism to like, if you're going to generate value out of your bitmap, you kind of start from that, right? So with this, you can generate this new asset class of tokens native to the metaverse. They're being non-arbitrarily produced. Like these are all the new killer features of what's being built in Ordinals and in this Bitcoin environment, right?
Yeah.
These are the things that haven't really been attempted or executed in the context of the metaverse, period. As far as we've observed,
Yeah.
Right. So typically you're in this like Web3 industry space, you're looking for these types of initiatives, right? Things that are pushing boundaries, things that are like, you don't really know if they're going to work, right?
Yeah.
Those are the asynchronous opportunities, right? Kind of like DeFi in the early days. Like, is that going to work? Is GameFi going to work? Are people really going to play games just to like mine these tokens from their, killing other puffball creatures in like a little PvP turn-based game?
By the way, games are part of the Olympics, man.
Are they?
They are.
Well, so are those one-handed snipers. I don't know if you've been seeing that. It's like the Olympics is pretty broad range of activity, right? But we're talking about something bigger than the Olympics, or we're talking about sustainable digital economics, dude. The Olympics is a scam, dude. Don't even bring up the Olympics. Total scam.
We're just, is just mad that we're losing to China.
At everything?
At everything.
Including shooting? Like, how do we lose at shooting? Yeah. Like, how do we not have the best shooters on earth? It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's exciting to hear what you guys are definitely developing, because I don't think people understand like how complex this actually is to execute, and like how, because the market, unfortunately, as of right now, is pretty dumb, I guess, but they've been conditioned to be dumb by many influential actors and parties, right? It's like the only thing we need to be like looking out for on our time horizon, our timeline, is like what's the hottest ticker, the hottest meme, what's the best joke in the space, right?
Yeah,
we're talking about some really complex stuff here.
Yeah,
like figuring out digital economics and metaverse utility. It's not really at the forefront of people's like
dumb
perceptions of like things that should be talked about, right?
Yeah.
So I think you guys have a tremendous opportunity here. Like, okay, are there any other details that we're missing in regards to this bit miner? Because it's obviously complicated. We've talked about how they're uniquely generated, just like any other UNAT, right?
Well, yeah. Wade, do you want to talk about how they're not only uniquely generated, but they look unique?
Yeah, because a 3D, a unique 3D thing is hard to pull off in its own right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is really hard to do the deployment of this 3D, but we figured it out how to do it, and then we used the 3JS. Of course, there is DMT vessels there with 3D, but here we are also utilizing actual GLTF file along with the other 3JS elements.
So
we will be inscribing all those files on chain. So everything will be on chain.
Oh, I was just about to ask, like, isn't these like 3D models like pretty heavy, like in terms of size? Like, how's the cost of putting all this on chain?
It will cost a couple $1,000.
Okay.
But on the GLT file, that side we have found a way to compress it really, really low, the size.
Okay.
Similar way, we already did that with a bitbot. Like we have a game character that's on chain. It's on BRC410D.
Yes,
it's also 3D. We inscribed that in also 3D file, GLTF file.
Okay.
Hey. But during that time onwards, we thought about this, how to reduce the GLTF size. We figured it out and we deployed that bitbot, reduced that size. So similar way we did this miner also.
So
along with other stuffs.
Yeah.
So Bitbot, I mean, that's a pretty high resolution 3D model. How much did that cost?
That costed around $2,000.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable for something high resolution like that.
Yeah.
Bitcoin was at $40,000.
Oh, okay.
And fee was low back then, just like now, actually.
Yeah, fees are low now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fees are like at 3 sats per VByte, so it's very cheap.
It's optimal timing, right? But obviously this so it's gonna work, I guess, for this specific iteration of 3D deployable content into the metaverse. But this is obviously not a scalable way to do things, right? Assuming the fees are going to explode, which they will, because they have, right? So, I mean, we have our own ideas as far as like how to solve this problem. I guess right now, you don't necessarily need to be thinking that far ahead, but I guess at some point you will have to, right? If you're building a developer ecosystem where they're gonna also have to create similar content to what it is this Bitminer is, like what do you think they're gonna be faced with as far as like how do they follow in your footsteps, right? Assuming fees are like in the 100+ sats per VByte range.
Yeah. since we will be inscribing all the stuffs on chain, all the files, all the JavaScript files, uh, other developers can also utilize that. They can call that in their code, add the inscription ID, and then call that, and make use of that functions.
So basically, anything that's inscribed on chain is open source, and you can utilize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
So wait, do you believe that everything needs to be on chain? I mean, this is a question that we wrestle with because, let's say 20, 30 years from now, when Bitcoin's at, $15 million, as Michael Saylor predicts, and everyone is utilizing Bitcoin, like countries and companies, like everyone's like accumulating this asset. Are we going to still be at a point where like inscribing things on chain or inscribing everything on chain is going to be important, or do you think it's okay to have stuff off chain and then utilize that off chain kind of component for a product that you run within the metaverse?
So for me, I want everything to be on chain. Like if I can do everything, then I will do it on chain. Okay. On chain only, because it's like Bitcoin is like a digital gold, and we are making ornaments utilizing this gold. So similar way, this on chain, these digital arts, everything is unique. Everything will be valuable.
Yeah, that's a good take. Especially now when we can actually sensibly put stuff on chain and it's not terribly expensive. Like these might be like very valuable assets in the future. Like we're talking 30 years from now. Like these could be one of the very few things that still remain on chain, as far as like during that time, like in the future, maybe nobody's putting anything on chain because it's just unfeasible. Right. Yeah. So these are going to be actual artifacts.
I believe that people will bring parts of the things. Like, for example, we already saw people putting on chain different tones, and then you make a music, just recursively calling those tones in different, rhythm or whatsoever. Also, you can do different shapes, and then you build from those shapes recursively. That will, of course, if you do high detailed building, that will be expensive to put it on chain, inscribe, especially at those prices we are talking now in millions. But if you put, if you have materials on chain already and you just point to them, build that, put that there. And I think that's the future. And for different tools, for different applications, there also people will inscribe like libraries on Bitcoin, and then you use that. That's my opinion. I just speculate, of course, but
yeah. So I have a video here that kind of like gives everybody an idea as like what this Bitminer is going to look like, and this is just one example, and I'm going to go ahead and play this video. That way everybody can see exactly what we're talking about, because I can imagine anybody listening to us or watching us is like, what does this thing actually look like?
Yeah.
And so this is potentially what the actual UNAT is going to look like. And then you'll be able to deploy the item here on top of this like little kind of like mountain thing, and deploy that on top of your bitmap, and then it's going to give you an interface to actually extract these Foxxi tokens. So I wanted to talk about one little thing that we're starting to incorporate and test into like the DMT ecosystem, which is called block drops. And I sort of like hinted at it, during a Twitter space, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail as to what this is and like how someone like Foxxi could actually use this. So think about this. So you have your UNAT or your Bitminer, and all of a sudden Foxxi team block drops like upgrades. Maybe the upgrades are just visual. Maybe the upgrades are more like the rate of extraction. And so what you could do is you could inscribe this child inscription from this Bitminer, and you enhance the look of it, or you enhance the production rate of it, and this is just a way to continuously have like the user upgrade their assets in the same way that you upgrade a character in a video game, right? And so that's just one thing that you guys could start thinking about, is like how you can leverage block drops for something like Bitminer.
Yeah, and that sounds really cool. Something to inject into your, other ecosystem activities, like you mentioned clan wars and such. So you're gonna have to consider what are the things these people are competing for, right?
Yeah, dude, that's such a good idea. It's like, what if you had teams, right? And you had to like select a team as like blue versus red, right? Mm-hmm. And then the more people that inscribe the blue, you start mining like a collective power like increase, right? And so, I mean, you could do a lot of it in terms of gamifying this thing. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes, definitely. There is a lot of potential there, like you said.
Yeah, so we have block drops, and so I guess to actually do a block drop, I mean, you could also use privilege authority, so you could set it for free, or set a price on it. So it's totally up to like how the creators want to leverage these block drops, but I feel like that's a new vector of like interactivity that creators can start thinking about in terms of designing their UNAT.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of like a fun thing, and I'm just giving you guys an example. Like that doesn't even have to be the thing that you do, right? Yeah. So you guys will have to think through.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. You guys will have to think through is like how to best utilize it.
Well, not necessarily you either. Like the community themselves can also contribute, right? By
100%.
Here's these miners, right? And I want to contribute to the value of the ecosystem of these bit miners. Like, I don't know, let me think. What would be a good like secondary asset to pair along a bit miner?
Well, it could be like a new fungible token or a new asset. It could be like an art piece, like like the community could say, I'm going to block drop an art piece to this bit miner, and Foxxi say, you know what, I'll recognize it in my game, and if you spend 30 hours actually mining this token, then you get to extract that art piece.
Yeah, so there's like an experiment of consensus formation around here as well, where anybody can really inject the attempt to add like value to the parent assets themselves, which in this case are the miners, right? So, it's a free and open mechanism for anybody to kind of like at least propose this new value contribution.
Yeah.
But obviously not every single thing that becomes now claimable through block drops are going to be like of value, right? Yeah. So some of them will be disregarded. It's like, dude, that's whatever, right? But depending on the narrative or the actual mechanics of what the thing actually is, it could get, like you're saying, adopted by you guys, for example. It's like, we want this as like a permanent part of the ecosystem, right? Yeah. But maybe it's like a new battery cell.
Yeah, it's just open source development, right?
Exactly.
If someone says, hey, you should support some sort of thing that's happening out there, and you can support it by inscribing this block drop, and it looks like some flag or something, right? You guys can decide to support it in the metaverse and like display that flag.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. So we're excited because you guys have a lot of ability, right, as developers. So I think people can contribute in ways that they couldn't for other UNAT collections specifically, right? Which is we're very. I mean, we love what's happened so far, like on mscribe's blockpad and all the mints we've kind of been through since like the last few months, once privilege authority was enabled on mscribe.
Yeah.
But this new tier that's approaching, as far as like functional content, metaverse content, game content, stuff like that, it introduces a new wrinkle of complexity, right? Now things can kind of expand beyond even our own imaginations, right? As far as like how do we add more value to this stuff, because I mean the ecosystems where these assets live within are it's more than just like a canvas of an image, right? It could be almost anything. So
yeah,
this is really what we've been kind of priming the DMT like framework for, is like actually metaverse developers and stuff to kind of take advantage of it and like test the the boundaries of what it is we can achieve through that, right? So yeah, block drops are a big deal. Another thing that we haven't really talked about is the activation of new data fields, right?
That's
which
right.
In particular to your asset, you guys are going to be, first users of that as well, right?
Yeah, so this one is interesting because the whole idea here is that every field that gets indexed, it creates a new property that the community can leverage. For example, one of the properties that is currently indexed is basically the property of, if you find a pattern, then that pattern occurs 2016 times, which is tied to the difficulty adjustment.
Correct.
And so 2016 blocks means essentially every 2 weeks, and that represents like a single difficulty adjustment. But now there are other fields that give you a different property, right? So one field would be like block height, or another field would be like the subsidy. And so each of these different fields gives you a different property that you can leverage. And when you find patterns in these different fields, it's not 2016. It could be any number, essentially. And so now you can start playing around as a creator, is like which one you can, it makes sense as far as like what property applies to what you're actually creating.
Yeah, so for you guys, the Bitminer's case, you agree that you need some sort of because Bitmap is a consistently expanding like thing, right? Like every single day there's a predictable inflation rate. 144 new bitmaps are generated every single day. That does not adjust or scale in any other direction, right? So that is like the ecosystem we expect within this like metaverse economy.
Yeah.
It might be a good safe assumption to assume like if you're going to introduce like a new application within this thing, it should similarly expand at like another sensibly predictable and like expansion rate.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't feasibly do this at the moment with the bits field, right? But the introduction of like the field of block height, now you have a new flexible, data pattern set where you can introduce these things like daily asset generation, just like a bitmap, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, what do you guys think about that as far as, introducing Bitminer as something that could be produced like whatever range and scale? Like what is it you guys have in mind, as far as like associating this asset to an element, which is a Bitcoin data pattern? What is the best interpretation of that, you think?
So if it's like, occurring each day on a block, on an element, the Bitminer is appearing, that's really, really good. Like we can do like that. And, people don't know what kind of rarity or what kind of uniqueness is in that Bitminer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, if Bitcoin's going to last as long as we think it's going to last, which, hundreds of years, thousands of years, it doesn't make sense to create like a 10K project and like it's just 10K and like that's it. Like it just doesn't make sense. So you need something that scales to the future and makes the project relevant 100 years from now. 100 years from now, there's going to be Bitminers being generated. Like that is cool. And all you need is a script that supports 100 years of development and creation, right? And so you're going to, and that sounds hard, right? Someone who doesn't like really understand like how all this works is like, now I have to think about 100 years in the future. It was like, well, not really. It's just a script. And we know that in 100 years there's going to be so many blocks, and you can kind of like predict what's going to look like, right? So it's not, the extra work isn't really that much extra. But what it does do is it gives you that longevity, that relevancy. Bitminer occurs every single day. Like there's stuff is happening, just like in the same way Bitcoin continuously produces blocks.
Yeah.
And there is a energy expense on the planet to produce these blocks.
Correct.
And that energy expense is thereby creating these Bitminers and Bitcoin and NAT and all these like different UNATs. Like this is like new stuff, right? We haven't dealt with something like this in crypto before. And so that's why this is like really exciting, just to see what everyone like interprets block data into. Like for example, Bitoshi interpreted block data as a metaverse, right? Created Bitmap. And then EV interprets a block data as a cat, right? And we have Bitminer now, and we're going to have all these like cool things, and they're always going to be produced in a way that is non-arbitrary, right? So it's been interesting kind of seeing like what everybody's interpretation of block data has been. So we have a few more minutes, guys. Any like final takeaways that you want the community to learn, to know, and yeah, I guess what are the final things that you want your community to like do and like in the next couple of weeks to prepare for something like this?
So on our Discord, we have introduced a Bitminer AI bot. So there are, if the users can do some tasks and get the whitelist and prepare for the mint event.
Okay.
Yeah, there will also be occasionally activity will be paid off because there will be randomly and given access to guaranteed whitelist. Now, for those tasks, what Wait is telling us, it will be to some different whitelist tiers, like first come, first serve. You can do some tasks and so on. But yeah, we are community is here for a long time. It's expanding rapidly now. Also, we will have testing of our game soon. That is also what will bring some eyes on us, and we plan, if everything goes well, we plan to release it publicly also right after that.
Okay.
So that's our short-term roadmap.
Yeah, we got 2 weeks or so for beta testing. We're gonna have, if you guys follow us, follow us on X. We post a lot of things, just stay updated.
Yeah, and didn't you have like a place for people to jump in an environment right now?
Yes, I shared that. I'm not sure we're supposed to share that yet.
Oh, okay.
So
okay,
I won't share it on here again. But yeah, just give us a follow, guys. Oh shit, I was gonna say something. I forgot.
Yeah,
we'll cut that off. Hopefully.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. So I guess we're waiting for a couple more weeks. We have a little bit more technical infrastructure to kind of finish off with, like indexing this new field and then deploying the element that supports the Bitminer. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. I mean, this is like one of the more exciting UNATs that we've seen. It's a programmable, deployable asset within a bitmap. I feel like this is going to be the first step for like a larger ecosystem of creators building applications that can be deployed on a bitmap.
Yeah, and it's a starting point to actually like track and observe like the actual inflows of metaverse activity, right? Like
yeah, I mean, and on top of this, we're going to be creating our applications that are going to be deployable as well. I mean, that's what we've been doing in our past and like in Decentraland and things like that. And we want to contribute to this ecosystem because we believe that this is going to be the layer that creates the sustainability for developers and creators and creates the stickiness for everybody to partake in the metaverse. So like we're going to be major participants, and we're huge supporters of Foxxi and Bitminer and all that, because you guys are like at the frontier of this side of the metaverse.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
All right, guys. For everyone else, all the links will be in description. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we will catch you in the next podcast.
Peace.